Welcome to today's video, part of the Audi S4 ownership series that I'm working on. The goal is to create a comprehensive guide of information about the Audi S4, especially for those of you who are thinking about buying and owning one of these cars. Today we have both an Audi S4 and an A4. This A4 is a 2013 model year car, my S4 is a 2014. They're both of the B8.5 generation, and we're going to compare the A4 and the S4, see where they differ, and also show you guys how the S4 is an upgrade over the A4. Let's start with some background information about this B8 platform. The world was introduced to the Audi A4 of this generation at the 2007 Frankfurt Motor Show. It ended up arriving in America as a 2009 model year vehicle. This generation ran all the way to 2016. It has now ended. It's been replaced with the B9 generation Audi A4 and S4. Halfway through its lifespan, it was updated, mid-cycle refresh, leading to the B8.5 generation cars you see here. I'm not going to go too in-depth today about B8.5 versus B8 because I'll make an entire separate video with my B8.5 S4 versus the B8 showing you guys the difference. Let's start off talking about the powertrains. When the A4 first came out, there were two engines available, a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that started at 211 horsepower and a 3.2-liter V6. That 3.2-liter V6 did not last for a long time. By the second model year, it had been killed off. There were three transmission options available. You had either a CVT, a 6-speed automatic, or a 6-speed manual transmission. Fast forward to the mid-cycle refresh of B8.5, you had the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. Same engine was upgraded and made 220 horsepower through that refresh. The 6-speed was replaced by an 8-speed automatic. You could still get the 6-speed manual. The Audi S4 has always come with a 3-liter supercharged V6, 333 horsepower, 325 pound-feet of torque. You got two transmission options, either a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed dual clutch. My Audi S4 has the 7-speed DCT. Quattro all-wheel drive was standard on the S4 with a rear-biased 40 to 60 power split. You could get front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive Quattro available on the A4. Let's move on to styling differences between the A4 and the S4. Obviously, this A4 is not entirely stock. You can see it has the RS style mesh grille up front, but if you take a normal A4, this one does not have the S-Line package, it's a regular Premium Plus. Differences are actually rather limited. Headlights are the same. A4 and S4 share the same bodywork. It's not a giant change for the styling-wise for the S4. Limited to slightly upgraded grille, the more aggressive front fascia with the lower bumper, the fog lights are a little bit different. But the thing is, if you were to option an A4 with the S-Line package, it looks almost identical up front. You get the same front grille, the same fog light things, but headlight to headlight is exactly the same between the A4 and the S4. As you move around to the side, you notice a few more differences. You have a different side skirt on the S4. You've got the signature Audi S silver mirror caps on them, and then the wheels obviously are going to be slightly different. The Audi S4 brings you larger wheels. I've got 19-inch. These are called the peeler style wheels. They're pretty common on this. The A4 has smaller wheels, 17 through 19-inch at the top end. But overall, the wheels are going to be a little more aggressive on the S4. There's different styles there. They're larger than the A4. If you move around back, you'll see quad exhaust tips. That's the most obvious thing on the back of the S4. The A4 does not have quad exhaust tips. They're just double on one side with the 2-liter turbo. Obviously, you have the S4 badge on the back, but overall, it's really, really similar. The A4 and S4 is not a huge change. It's not like RS7 to A7, where the RS7 is completely different front fascia. It looks more wide and more aggressive. There are minor detail changes between the two. Honestly, if you were to option up a loaded up A4, the same generation with the S-Line package, they look very, very similar. It takes somebody who really knows the car to see the difference. So if you're looking to purchase a car that stands out a lot, that looks very, very different and unique, the S4 is not going to be the car. It's not a huge upgrade and aggression to the A4. Let's start out looking at the interior of the A4. Now, this is a Premium Plus vehicle. It does not have the S-Line package. So therefore, it's pretty representative of an average spec'd Audi A4 of this generation. You notice this is the regular steering wheel. The shifter knob right there is also going to be a difference between the A4 and the S4. And then the seats, this one does not have the sport seats. And the inserts, you'll see they're silver. The trim inserts there are silver on the A4. Everything else, from the seat heater control to the climate control to the MMI interface, the start button, the center tachometer, speedometer in the middle, are all going to be exactly the same across the two cars. So let's walk over to the S4 and check that one out. So with the S4, you get this flat bottom steering wheel, obviously the S4 badge. If you were to option an A4 with an S-Line package, you would get the similar steering wheel, just without the badge. Similarly, you get the S4 shift knob there. It's a circular ball, sphere shaped, instead of the one in the regular A4. This car has carbon fiber trim, upgraded magma red Napa leather is available. Also a couple other different colors on these sport bucket seats that you cannot get no matter what you do on the A4. You are able to get sport seats on the A4, and I believe they're identical to the ones on this car. But like I said, pretty much the same thing with the dials, your infotainment with the MMI. As long as you have MMI option, it'll be the same. One other difference is the Audi S4 does get drive select. There's the controller right there. I'll talk about that a little more when we go to the performance section. But to summarize, with the S4, it's a more fully optioned version. It's the same platform, similar vehicle, so a lot of the buttons are going to be shared. The vents and everything are exactly the same. Just pieces have been upgraded, like the steering wheel, like the shifter knob, the carbon fiber trim. You get drive select, upgraded leather. This car does have Bang & Olufsen sound system, which is a little bit nicer. But again, that is an option you can get. I've seen fully optioned Prestige A4s that look almost identical to the S4 on the inside. They get very, very nice. But if you were to just compare a mid-level A4 to like a regular S4, the S4 will be nicer than the A4 on the inside. Performance is where you're really going to see how the S4 is superior to the A4, how the car drives. So you get 333 horsepower from the factory in the Audi S4 versus only 220 in the A4. Also 0 to 60 according to Audi, 6.7 seconds for this car and 4.9 seconds for the S4. And the S4 has been tested in the real world to 60 as fast as 4.4 seconds. It's going to be a lot quicker, but not just in a straight line. As I mentioned earlier, you get drive select in the Audi S4. That allows you to vary the response of the transmission, the engine, the sports differential, the suspension. All these factors you can change from dynamic to regular to comfort and vary them with how you want the car to perform. That sports differential really does make this car drive a lot better, combined with either the 6-speed manual or the 7-speed dual clutch and that supercharged V6. Personally, as a car enthusiast, the Audi S4 is a no-brainer over the A4. Now, the A4 is a good vehicle. It's the same platform of the car, but the things that you get in the S4 from a performance perspective, I believe are really worth it. The final thing we have to talk about are the price differences. The S4 is obviously always going to be more expensive than the A4. Back when they were brand new of this generation, an A4 was typically around $35,000 starting price, whereas an S4 was $48,000. Loaded up, the S4 would get more expensive. This one's stickered for almost $60,000 with all the options on it. Now, if we move forward to the used market, right now you can get a pretty good condition refreshed Audi A4 without insane miles for about $10,000 to $17,000. That's the price range you would see. An equivalent generation S4 with similar comparable miles to that A4 price range I was talking about is going to be $20,000 to $30,000, again, depending on mileage and condition. Regardless of what you're buying, personally, I would choose a B8.5 generation car if it's a Audi A4 or an Audi S4. Both of them have the improvements in technology. They've made changes and improvements throughout the years, especially with that mid-cycle refresh. But again, it is a more expensive car, but I think the performance things, everything I added up, if you look at it from part by part by part, you look at the exterior, really, okay, it's just a slightly different grille. Okay, I can put a new grille on it. Oh, the bumper's slightly different. S-Line package fixes that. Oh, quad exhaust tips, big deal. It doesn't look like a ton. You go on the inside, it's just a steering wheel. S-Line package gets that too. It's the powertrain and the way it drives, the overall way the car feels. It's a more sporty car. It's definitely more oriented to somebody who is looking for a car that handles well. It's also very competent as a daily driver. If you're just looking for a vehicle that's good all around, gets good fuel economy, has some nice technology, luxury, a good brand name, Audi A4 is a great platform to start with. But personally, in conclusion, I really believe that the S4 is a better car than the A4. I think it is worth the price difference. The resale, especially to an enthusiast, is a little bit better. They're more rare. The little things add up to make it be one of my favorite cars I've owned. I think it's a great daily driver. I've loved it. The A4 is still a good car. As you can see, this car has been mildly modified by the owner, but he is moving on to something else that's comparable to the S4. Eventually, everybody's going to have a car like this. But I think this was pretty cool comparing an A4 and an S4. I was actually really surprised when I was doing research on this video how close you can make them. From the interior trim, the options, there's some Audi Prestige and Premium Plus models that have been optioned up, A4s that look almost identical to the S4 with the same sports seats, the B&O sound system. It's got full MMI and everything. It's got the nicer wheels on the outside. You're only really missing the quad exhaust tips and obviously the engine. It's really hard to swap an engine in, and the performance upgrades are definitely worth it because the money you're going to spend upgrading the A4 to make it as quick as a stock S4, you might as well just buy a stock S4. So there we go. hopefully if you guys were thinking about buying an S4 and not sure if you could justify the price difference, or you're thinking about an A4, maybe do you want to spend more and get the S4, this provided a little more clarity in terms of the differences. What do you get in an S4 versus just a regular A4? Hope you guys like this video. I'm making a lot more. We're going to do things like the reliability of the S4, common issues of the S4, how does the S4 B8.5 compare versus the B8, about to hit 50,000 miles, do a 50,000 mile ownership review, and so on. If you have anything specific you'd like to see, please comment below. Thanks for watching.